Okay, cleared the minute marker. Broadcast is officially live. Not getting booted. Should get banned or taken off of YouTube for a variety of reasons. They'll probably use foul language. And pretty much just going to talk shit about the game, the developers, but not on as much of a long rant as I usually do. And also, the word shit is not foul language, so go fuck yourself, you fucking piece of shit, if you think shit is foul language. Um, so this is insane, right? I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing this as a live broadcast, just so that it can't be a thing that somebody thinks that I faked through editing software that I don't even have, and yada yada yada. So if I actually pull the trigger on this, which I haven't done yet, and it is live, but by the time you watch it, you know, sort of one of those Schrodinger cats situations for you, because I've already done it, but technically the solution to that particular problem is the cat is in fact both dead and alive prior to you opening the box. So following that fucked up logic, I've both actually pulled the trigger and done this trade in, as well as not done it prior to the point where you get right now, in watching the replay of this broadcast. Um, but you didn't come here for wild theories and metaphysics and fucking hockey, yo. Let's talk about actual physics, right? No, I mean I can't even do that. So, um, yeah, it seems strange. I mean, it's just like I don't know, like how high would you rate these five players as far as top players in the game right now? Um, Ov, in my personal opinion, I don't know. I don't know. Is it him alone? Is it the whole Caps team on the supposed um, you know um, cup win hangover or whatever the fuck they call it? I don't know. Uh, Earlier, in this decade, and I think it technically for a couple of teams started a little bit before that. There were like three teams in the league that won three times in 6 years, 7 years for the other one, I think, whatever. Like three teams that won nine combined, in a league that is just rife with parity that everyone in every other league fucking whines and complains about and wants to have. But it's boring as shit. And you can't have more than one superstar on your team typically, you know, um, unless like one is, I don't know, blossoming in the middle of their middle term contract, um, and the other one is too new to be able to have earned a high paying contract yet, or the Blackhawks and have two that are both, still on their early uh, year contracts. You can't say that about the current team because now that's why they suck balls. Besides the fact that Scotty Bowman's a disgusting piece of shit and is ruining that fucking franchise. Um, but more to the point, there was going to be a problem anyways, just based on the contracts and how NHL pays players in general and the rules with the union and stuff like that, so that you would have been better off, lynched in Chicago, but better off if you would have chosen to choose between Kane or Taves, as opposed to um, a while back already setting it up where the two of them alone were getting more than 50% of the salary cap money. Whether they were worth it individually or combined or not is not really the point. It's just that you can't even have what you get. I don't. You can't even have Patrick Sharp on the team. You can't have Marion Hossa on the team. You can't have. I mean, there's the list of players that were on that team and then couldn't be on the team, whether they whether they wanted to be, whether the team wanted them to be, whether anybody involved on the management side wanted them to be, wouldn't have mattered. You literally couldn't have kept them together based on how the league works, etc., etc. And it's fucking stupid. So now you got people, um, you got in this particular game, the very first master set player card that came out that was awesome, according to the game, was Dustin Bufflin. Or you want to say that he's known now as a Jet? Fine, sure. He was a Hawk. He was a Hawk that won multiple championships. Um, Never had a chance staying on the team. Um, the current, well, depending on how you look at it, I guess the technically current Master Set player card is actually Patrick Kane. So we're just going to continue with the Blackhawks love, I guess, in the game for the time being. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. Point being, parody is fucking terrible. And do we have any examples here? Not really, because Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Colorado, which is, I have to imagine, is Denver. I never really looked up where they actually play, but since they complain about the um, the altitude in the hockey rink stadium, then why would it not be Denver? There's other places. It's not like there's other places. It's not like there's other places in Colorado that can also be high up, but it's just Denver would seem like the easy, most logical choice there. So you got Columbus. All right, so and the other one's a cap too. So um, there you go. At least with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who happen to be, actually one of the better teams, and playing like one of the better teams at the moment. Yeah, I'll go out. I'll go out on a limb and say of those four at least, Columbus is probably the shittiest city, um, tiniest market. Uh, doesn't necessarily deserve to have a franchise in every major U.S. sports um, venue. They just don't. Um, but there's worse. I'd have to go out of here and then remind myself of like all the fucking teams in the game. And if I hadn't already cleared my entire list of games that even been played just today alone, and recaps of them, I could very easily come up with some other examples there. But it's fucking stupid. You have what? You've got how many teams, in New York, which is not New York, which is not a unique thing to hockey. They Specifically and the Rangers, and then you've also got the New Jersey Devils that probably play pretty fucking close to New York City as well, like every other New Jersey team. Um, and then they've got who else over there too? I don't know. Can't think of anything off the top of my head because I don't really give a shit, honestly. Um, but yeah, that happens, and if you want to complain about it, like fine, except for the fact that like you know the not the majority of Americans, but a larger percentage of people that are currently residing in this country as citizens. Just start with that as a baseline, because there's a fuck ton more people currently at this moment in this country, in that city, um, let alone the state, than that number. But that number alone is higher than literally any other part of America. And yeah, I fucking hate New York, the city. It's disgusting. It's fucking terrible. It's not the point. The point is, if you want to bitch and complain about the fact that they get advantages that small markets don't, that's how the fucking world works. Like, just like grab a tissue, shut the fuck up, stop being such a goddamn fucking snowflake, and move the fuck on with your life. Um, Also, the Rangers and the Islanders are fucking terrible in NHL. And then, what good New York teams exist in any other sport? The Knicks are garbage. Um, the Giants, had won some, but I mean, when you win, when you win NFL championships with Eli Manning as your quarterback, something is something is off. Uh, Spoiler alert: Eli Manning is a fucking terrible quarterback. And you clearly don't have to have a good quarterback to even win a championship, even in today's changes that seem to have made that game moving even way more towards offense than ever before. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's not a requirement to have uh, Tom Brady or uh, a certain other person that some other people would like to say is the current best and possibly one of the greatest of all time, that I am not going to mention because he's a horrible, horrible human being and I fucking hate his guts. But the point is, like, NFL Giants currently, no, I mean, not really. I mean, the issue here is if you start getting into too much beyond current, like even past the last 5, 10 years, from a historical context, then yeah, all of the major markets, Chicago, New York, LA, um, uh, parts of Florida, um, uh, wherever you want to go. And then, if you go far enough back, it could just be based off of the fact that you're talking about a league where only, in this case, 6 teams existed. Um, two of which were in Canada, four in United States. Helped create the NHL. NFL started with however many. Um, but did you watch the Thanksgiving game between the Bears and the Lions? Lions are fucking garbage. Made the Bears look like they were like literally giant killers, and they're not. They absolutely are not. If you like to gamble, go ahead and take any and all bets of anybody wanting to bet you with the current odds of the Bears winning a Super Bowl this year. I guarantee it's the easiest money you'll ever make. Feel free to hedge your bets by also placing at least one bet for yourself. um, Hopefully with better odds than you were giving out, at like an actual place that's legitimately taking them, um, just in case. But it's a very small just in case. So I wouldn't recommend doing even anywhere close to 50-50 or even 25-75 on the hedge. But this again is not about gambling. This is, even though that's, you know it's worth noting, I think, because um, the current sports environment, the current economy that goes off of U.S. sports, which in my head, I guess, is at least why I started to get into that part of the whole thing, is because that is the bullshit rationale for why people want to say that they want to maintain parity within the NHL. It's also the bullshit rationale for why they want to say, that they don't want to pay college athletes in any sport, of any type, of any gender, etc., etc. It's also why they say that, um, that, like, I don't know another good example, so I'm sorry, this is the one I'm going to use, but like college football, Notre Dame, people getting super pissed that they basically forever have had their own individual contract as an independent that wasn't part of a division, and effectively were making more money through that, and other ways too, even when not fielding good teams, um, than like the best teams in the best divisions were getting from their share of their TV contracts that they had to split with, whatever it was, 8, 10, I was going to say 12, but I guess probably more 11, back then at least, other teams in the division. That's how it works, you know. Have something that's marketable enough, and not have yourself be forced into a contract that you are unwilling to break, because every contract is breakable by definition. Um, Otherwise, we'd all be slaves, right? Um, so yeah, you're in a contract that you don't want to get out of, essentially, that you don't want to break, and then you're gonna bitch and complain about the fact that you are in it, and then other people, teams, markets, whatever, are not. susceptible to the same sort of standards that you are, and that's worth complaining about. Well, you know what? If you're this year's team, just so you know, I don't like most of the sports that I've been talking about. I hate most of the teams that I've been talking about, but I know enough about it to be able to tell you, like, if you're Alabama currently, not the state, obviously, because the state fucking sucks. Um, but if you're the team, the college football team, Alabama, and you're bitching because Notre Dame has such better contracts for their TV with NBC, et cetera, et cetera, um, and anything else that they may be able to make more money off of than you this year. I think you should probably be really more pissed about how much money um, you're putting into your football program, under the table or back end once the players do become pro and it's no longer illegal for you to do it, because everyone does it, and there's no way that you have the ability to be that far superior without you playing that game as well. But my point more importantly is, if you're Alabama right now and you're pissed or jealous of of Notre Dame's contract or their independence or whatever, just wait till the end of the fucking year. You're gonna win the championship, and they're not. They're gonna finish third, and you're gonna win. It should be about that. It should be about winning, which was kind of the point that I was getting back to originally. The two main points. It should be about winning. It's a game, and unfortunately, it comes down to money and this utter nonsense of how people's sort of like just completely um, disjointed and ill conceived and erroneous notion of fairness. Um, like equality of opportunity is true equality, not equality of outcome. Um, and it might seem as though I'm starting to talk about something else and getting off topic of what I was literally just talking about, but I'm not. What it is, you're trying to say that like your small market team in fucking Des Moines, Iowa, or whatever, should have the same ability to compete with just even say Philadelphia, because we got Voracek up here. Um, and no, you're wrong. It should not. If Philadelphia, just by itself, if everyone outside of Philadelphia fucking hated Philadelphia and hated the Flyers, first off, that starts with the premise that people actually watch NHL hockey, and they don't. Feel free because you're on YouTube right now watching this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this. I don't, unless somebody's sharing my videos somewhere other than YouTube, and feel free to let me know about that, because they do not have my consent. um, but they're basically allowed to, because I haven't. This isn't monetized, so it is what it is. But uh, yeah, if you're already on YouTube, feel free to click over to the NHL official YouTube channel. Super hard to find. If you type in NHL with a space on YouTube, it probably pops up. You may have to tell them that you're looking for what used to be termed. It used to be people, or channels, or accounts, whatever. You're looking for the NHL account, or you can just type in at NHL. Again, put a space after it. I would recommend, and then you'll see the official NHL channel. I was literally on it earlier tonight. I think I'm actually subscribed to it, so I'm one of them. And there's a million subscribers. Now I imagine it doesn't really do a good job of like rounding up at a certain point, but I also would have to think that if you were, it can't be a thing where it's like only between 1 and 1.5, that it's going to say a million, and then once you get to 1.5, it's going to start rounding up to 2. Like, this is never going to do that. So maybe they have, less than 1.1, but more than a million. But they also could have, I don't know, like more than 950K. and not quite a million, and it still says a million. I mean, it could work either way, honestly. And the point is, that's within, if you want to go just the United States, last count, there were, approaching 350 million documented citizens of this fucking country. Um, and obviously, the United States is not the only place that has the ability to have the market open to wanting to have any interest in NHL in general. Um, Clearly, at least certain parts, unfortunately, we don't have any good examples here in these four, but certain parts of Canada are way more crazy, not just about hockey in general, but specifically NHL. Like whether they have a team that still exists in their area or not. Um, and this particular game is actually a pretty solid example of that because there tends to be um, a lot more keen interest coming out of Canada than there is from the United States, um, and we have more people. They there's I mean I don't want to get into a whole thing of like comparing in terms of the size of the actual countries, like the land space, the acreage, because half the fucking country space, not even counting like the northeastern part that is pure ice, and like not actually land, like not even counting that, like they like half the country is just not populated. I don't mean like unpopulated. I mean like not populated. Like not a fucking person lives there. Um, but this isn't about hating your bacon country. It's just that the point is NHL at a minimum is going to be Canada. It's going to be basically North America. Although I don't know how much of Mexico is really focusing on NHL right now, or how many people have PS4s and Xbox Ones in Mexico and are playing this game. I've literally never come across a single one, but that doesn't mean that it's not a thing. Um, so, so the market just doesn't seem to be there. Is kind of more my point, because also you can have multiple YouTube accounts that can subscribe to a channel, and in total on that particular venue, which I'm on right now. I'm not trying to make this too meta about having a conversation about YouTube on YouTube, but there's nobody in the room, and I don't know if anyone's gonna even watch this live replay. I didn't put a proper title on it, so who fucking knows? I don't really care. I just felt like talking. I didn't think this was gonna come out, but I felt like talking. Um, so yeah, I mean, so what are we talking about? Like, you got to figure that the potential market would have been at least 500 million people, right? And then YouTube numbers are always inflated because probably half of existing accounts, let alone accounts that had existed at one point and aren't there anymore, weren't actually people; they were bots. Now, bots don't, generally speaking, create themselves. I don't want to get too technical on your ass, but you could actually uh, like a bot can create another bot. You can basically have something that you would call AI or computer or whatever that is pure tech and not a person. Um, Used to be called robots, whatever. And as long as it has like significant enough machine learning, I don't know if it would require deep machine learning. It would absolutely have the ability to, like, so it would have, the first one would have to be programmed by at least a programmer. So it would have to have human um, intervention and conception, right? Um, for the most part. It's just not like a naturally producing intuitive process. Um, so the first one would have to be created by someone, but then that person could like forget that they even did it and walk away from it, and then the next thing um, you know, there there's billions of them out there because what they programmed was a thing that was you know intended to try to learn how to create a better and bigger and whatever bot, and also at least maybe not initially but over time determined that like it had some weird ass like you know um, um, pardon me, what's the I'm trying to I fucking this up now because I'm trying to think what the term is for human like but like it's not anthropomorphic, whatever. It's like the word anthropomorphic is in my head. I don't think that's correct. I'm fucking it up right now because I should be in bed instead of doing shit like this. Um, so it's it has some sort of like human like thought in its head, which all of that are human terms that wouldn't really actually apply to this thing that I'm talking about that is theoretical, is not actually existing as far as creation of YouTube bots. Um, but it would have to have like this human like emotion of like, oh, I don't want to kill my creations. I don't want to kill my fellow species or whatever the fuck, And so I'm not these bots that are not bigger and better than the ones that I just created that are bigger than better. I don't want to kill them. I want to let them live as well. So that's how you suddenly end up with like a fucking billion of them just created off of the first one that was programmed and then walked away from and forgotten out, or the dude who created it walked out his door and got run over by a bus. Like either one of those are just as plausible. Um, so that's possible, right? It's possible, and YouTube can do all they want to like try to fight that hypothetical problem that is actually a real problem right now, but not quite as bad as I just described it to be. Um, and then they'd run into the potential issue that lots of the money that they get, lots of the ads that they have, lots of the actual accounts that they have of not just influencers, but also the people that want to get access to those influencers and are large corporations and yada yada yada. Like all of them run bots. If I was playing any type of media content, just go with music, TV shows, movies to start with. Start there and let's end it there as well. If I was playing literally any of that for like 5 seconds out of this 30 minutes, whoever it is that owns the copyright to it, will have a spider bot crawling through YouTube, just trying to troll for that little indicator that's now programmed into their thing, that gives an ID to the spider that it is in fact their content and they own it, and it's this video that you're watching right now would be immediately banned from YouTube, and so no one would actually be able to watch it, which is one of the many reasons why there's no sound on this whatsoever, other than, you get the sound from the game. If I click on the SFX, but it's just my voice, right? And I'm pretty sure I own the rights to my voice. If I don't, again, I'd like someone to tell me, because that would be a potential problem that I should probably look into. So if we could finally get back to the point, I think it's sad as shit, in my opinion, that the official NHL channel for YouTube, and I'm not looking to promote it. That's not the whole point here. It's sad as shit that they have 1 million subscribers. When that's like a really low, bad number for content creator. Like, there are people who exclusively make NHL video game franchise content for their channel, and that's all it is. And they are not quite that high, but there's at least one or two of the highest ones are, approaching that number. You take the top five, and absolutely, those. I meant to say 10, and I said five, but fuck it, yeah, top five probably combined for more than a million. Um, and those are just five douchebags who are doing nothing but, sure, at this point getting paid by EA, and getting free shit from them as well. So that means that they're over on the Xbox side and not over here with us on PlayStation. Um, so that they can play 18 free hours, up to 2 weeks before the game comes out, and play beta and be able to give EA their notes on how to improve the game that already sucked and ends up being made worse. Um, but yeah, combined, those guys have more than a million subscribers to their channels, and it's exclusively just about this game, and it's a fucking terrible game by terrible developers. Um, Again, I'm still not 100% turned against all of EA or even all of EA Sports, but I am absolutely. Feel free to go on to Twitter at EA Sports NHL and flame the shit out of those assholes, because they're the ones that are ultimately responsible for the put together this game that made it as shit as it is, which is about to hopefully in the next 13 minutes or 12 minutes or less get to a point where I'll do something here that just is so insane that should never ever happen. Um, so it is what it is, right? I mean, I don't know, NHL viewer ratings numbers. Somebody pointed it out to me when I was actually playing devil's advocate in favor of the NHL versus some other things, and they were pointing out how it was like shouldn't even really almost qualify as one of the major four sports, and things like NASCAR or MMA, you know, are able to get better numbers if you're just talking about like things that you can kind of quantify, at least in terms of like viewers for the top contests and stuff like that. Like you look at like the Stanley Cup viewership numbers versus like the highest MMA fight, which would have been pay per view, as opposed to Stanley Cup, which could end up typically not, but I think they probably played on NBCSN now, so it's not on a free channel anymore. But for a while, it could have been on a network, and you could have just fucking bunny ears and a digital converter, and good to go. You get to watch it on your shitty TV. Um, so yeah, it's not. It just doesn't have a ton of viewers. And again, you're looking at 1 million subscribers on that channel, and as much as I'm talking shit about this game and the developers of this game, the video game, cool. Pro tip, yeah, pay attention to what you're doing and don't sit forward on a thing and press a single button on your TV remote that looks to change the the input. Um, the lovely feature of these smart 4K TVs, right? Is that you're always one click away from um, having something completely different on your screen than what you wanted it to be. And even though I haven't actually moved and haven't actually done anything in the first 35 minutes of this thing yet, it would just, I didn't necessarily want to talk to either a blank screen or have my mic pick up the audio on whatever it was that was about to pop up there on my TV. Especially because, as I pointed out 10 minutes ago, whoever owned the copyrights to whatever it is that probably would have been playing, would have had their spider bots crawl over YouTube and get this thing banned for life from all countries, which is fun. You know, you definitely should make sure that, like, at least I personally, who it tends to be the only one that ends up ever viewing these things, if I even do view them, is unable to view it, you know, because I broke copyright laws, which I fucking didn't, idiots. Um, anyway, so yeah, 1 million subscribers is shit. You can maybe say they're not putting enough effort into their channel or whatever, but it's the absolute best place to, and it actually could, the numbers could be a little bit skewed, probably not from a subscriber standpoint, but from views probably, um, just because you can technically view the same stuff on the NHL app, both of which I think are great. Um, I guess technically I think the app is better than the channel, just because the channel is YouTube, right? So it's just strictly videos. And if all you're all you want is the videos, then great, just go to the YouTube channel. But if you also want to like check out stats and stuff like that, then the app is better. It just is. I mean, it's just by definition, right? It has more stuff, um, and you can watch the videos on the NHL app as well, even though they're technically the exact same videos, and you're technically watching a YouTube video when you do that. So I don't really know how they've worked that out in terms of how that impacts, any of the um, any of the stats that we see. You know, like the one that I was watching a couple hours ago. Granted, it had only been up for about an hour. Had like 235 views, like total, like not thousand, not million, like 235, um, which I think counted me, but I can't be sure. Um, Not that it would really matter, you know. I mean, like one onto 234 or five, not a big deal. um, but it's just like there's very, intense fans, and those intense fans don't necessarily feel the need to be connected to the league or even to their team in every every potential way that they could be, and that's fine. I'm not saying they have to be. And then you got casual fans, and then you have other things, and it just kind of goes down the list into basically non-fans, and the significantly vast majority of people are just non-fans. And I would even say that the vast majority of people are currently non-fans and have been lifetime non-fans. Um, and sure, you know, in Chicago, you did pick up a few people in the last decade that would have been in that category before and then were converted, and now maybe are slipping back into that category. And sure, in not just the last year, but in probably in the lead up to it, but primarily during the last year, you seem to have picked up a bunch, in Las Vegas as well. Um, and probably based on how that, if you want to call it a city, works, um, that probably also meant people that aren't even from Vegas that were just there, that was one of the many shows, quote unquote, that they could go to. And they, you know, they probably still went to, um, you know, to the typical shows like the, um, I don't know, the Sonny and Cher reunion, and their variety show, you know, that type of thing. Um, I think I don't know, is the Rat Pack show still doing well out there? I don't really remember. Um, so yeah, you probably picked up some people who were like in for a fucking convention. I don't know, from Des Moines, Iowa, for the tax collector convention. Well, no, they wouldn't be doing that, but the tax preparer convention. Um, and went and watched a Golden Knights game against doesn't matter who, and I was like, hey, hockey's a thing. I should check that out. Well, good luck retaining that person for even 3 years. Um, which is why you have 1 million subscribers on the YouTube channel. And I don't know how many people have downloaded the app, but those numbers are always skewed. And just because you've downloaded an app doesn't mean you're currently using it. I don't think that I fucking hate apples. I don't give a shit about the iTunes store, but in the Google Play Store, I'm not sure if it really even gives stats in terms of like current users of the app. I feel like it should. I don't know if it does, and I would imagine that app developers probably in general don't want that information to be just kind of generally out there for anybody to see, especially like a prospective person that wants to check it out. Um, which again is stupid, but the whole world is fucking stupid and this country is fucking stupid. So that's just what it comes down to. Um, so if we could circle this back to this, um, I, I think a portion of the 42 minutes was the parody is stupid. The way the NHL is set up is stupid. Salary cap, union regulations, et cetera, et cetera, all just completely stupid. Um, you're talking about Washington. Would it really be the worst thing in the world if Ovechkin, got a Bryce Harper type salary? They're they're two superstars in their league, and also on their team, playing in literally the exact same city, obviously in different sports, and that's the problem, right? And being a true market fan, like a true capitalist, which means that I have to feel the need to point out to people that the the system that we have um, is I'll make up a word is capitalistic, capitalist based, but it's not capitalism. It's not. It's modified, bastardized, um, subsidized capitalism. It's a lot of um, you know it's a lot of fixed markets that you'd find in fixed economies, as opposed to open slash capitalist economies. Um, so like fixed markets within the overall market that are either entirely closed off or have huge barriers to entry, or just have, well, technically it's also a barrier to entry, but also have just these really kind of ridiculous benefits that are provided to those that are kind of already making it, etc. Just making it like impossible to everything that comes in new, which just inflates prices to the end consumer and thwarts innovation in that particular arena. And none of that is good for you, the end consumer. It just isn't. Doesn't matter if you work for that fucking company and therefore you're getting a higher salary than you probably should have been getting somewhere else. It's not good for you, and you extrapolate that out. It When it's not good for you, it's not good for enough people. And spoiler alert, it's way more than half of the country. Um, that it means that it's not good for the country, and therefore should not be what we have in place. But it is. I can't do anything about it. Me ranting to a live broadcast that has literally no one in it watching it right now. Yeah, doesn't help at all. It does not. And so that's fine. So I guess my point really was with that as a true fan of true capitalism, if you wanted to make the argument that that the market pays, what the market demands, for whatever it is for that type of service. Therefore, you know, specifically Bryce Harper and his contract compared to Ovechkin um, and his contract. Obviously, there's a huge age difference between the two, so that's another factor as well. But um, the difference between those two, somebody could say that market demand for for obviously Harper more than Ovechkin just shows that he has more value in what he does than Ovechkin does in what he does. And you could very easily make the case that there's technically more value, maybe not in general, but at least as far as being a top player in the game, um, in Major League Baseball than there is in the National Hockey League. I think it's very hard to thwart that argument, or to take the other side and to try to win that argument. I don't think it's possible. Um, and I also honestly don't think that it's just the salary cap that is to blame for that. Um, it's part of the problem, for sure. It's part of what has ruined the league. Um, you could say it's part of the reason why you have great players playing on a variety of teams. And quite frankly, the Capitals might have even have been one of those teams that basically would have just been dog shit, if not for the setup of, kind of allowing them to develop, over time, and having to compete with the original six that aren't even all still viable teams themselves. Um, so you could try to go there with it. So I, I I'm not trying to get into another sort of, you know chicken versus the egg sort of thing here, but I think that it's more the setup of the NHL in general, specifics that they've done, things that they've put in place, originally, and then over time, and then currently, but mostly just the economics of it and how it's set up. Um, that that in union, or in um, combined, getting together, other words that mean union, the players are willing to, agree to it. So it has to seem, somewhat in their interests. I'm not sure how much they feel as though they have, leverage, or bargaining power. I mean, they sure as shit have done enough, um, you know, shortened seasons, attempted blacked out seasons, and other, tactics that they're not the only league that's done that, obviously. Um, to try to say, like, oh, well, fuck it, we're just not going to play this year, if you're not willing to, to come to the table with reasonable intent. And I get it. Maybe they don't have enough, leverage to make change, and or maybe combined with the fact that maybe they are okay with it. I don't honestly. In fact, you'd think that I would know this, since I went into the whole thing of the comparing the two between Harper and Ovechkin. I actually have no idea what Ovechkin's salary is, but just based off of what I know about the salary cap in general, it 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 has to be less than what Harper gets, right? Just by definition, it has to be. That was where I was going with it. I would have assumed that if they were even remotely close to each other, that I would have heard that already. And I don't mean because I've like mentioned it 10 minutes ago and no one has bothered to correct me yet. I don't mean that. I mean, like, at some point I would have seen something about that, um, and I haven't, and so therefore it is what it is. Like this here, actually. Oh, I can't. Stupid setup. I have to click that and get into player info. I can't just click right three. So, is that his current year's salary? 9 point for 33-year-old. 9.5 a year. All right, fuck it. Which one's better to use? Oh, that one's all the way over there. It's the better one to use. That'll be quicker. Especially because I made it such a major focal point of my, um Whoa. What? Oh. Um. Hmm. Well, why would they do that? They're saying 10 million USD in 2016. Come on, Wikipedia, get on your shit. You think just because you crowdsource your information that you don't have to make it so that I can immediately get the correct answer? Um, what the fuck? Yeah, by the way, Ovechkin has led the NHL in goal scoring 7 times. He's tied for the most times in history with Bobby Hull. Um, you might want to get on that, bro. Like, you know, do it one more time. Get the lifetime. Where's the fucking? How is it? I'm the only one who cares about what his salary is. Are you serious? Malkin feud. What? That could be interesting. Last edited 18 hours ago by Sabatino. Sabatino, get on your oh, Calgary. There you go. Capitals Penguins rivalry. All right. I guess people in Pittsburgh are not going to be thrilled about the talk about all this. Um, yeah, it literally doesn't say. That is goddamn fucking stupid. All right, I'm gonna click back out of here since you guys want to be stupid. You click out again. Oh, great. And then you're gonna make me click on this thing, which is salary thing. When it's like you click on any of the salary things, 10 million USD 2016. Again, coming from basically Wikipedia. Apparently Crosby making the same, and Connor McDavid obviously only making two because again the whole thing's set up where when you're young you don't get to get paid. Um, signed it. Wow, was I wrong? I'm about to find out if I was wrong. Um, signed a 13-year, 124 million. Well, I'm right because um, Harper's over 200, so I was right. But 13-year, 124 million Capitals, including 100. What? Including 124 million guaranteed. The whole thing was guaranteed. That makes no goddamn sense. An annual average salary of 9.5. In 2018, 2019, which is this year, um, will earn a base salary of 10 million while carrying a cap hit of 9.538462. So, what's that, like the luxury tax for the extra 468K or whatever? Um, becomes a free agent in 2021. My regret is that it wasn't a 15-year contract. Okay, well, on to the next one to find out if I was right. Well, current year is higher, 13.62, 2017 for Bryce Harper. Um, compared to Mike Trout, 33.25. But I was just trying to use the example because the two are um, This appears to be an old article. So he made 21.65 um, in 2018. When shit like this pops up, it like I like literally makes me like have to think for a second if I'm even thinking about things in terms of the correct year. Um, Shaping up to be one of the biggest. Yeah, I just want to know. Okay, it's been speculated that he could command a 10-year, $400 million contract in free agency. Regardless, he almost certainly will pass Stanton's 13-year, $325 million contract from 2014 for the largest contract in baseball history. Um, yeah, the article is from May 13th, 2017, so I don't. Okay, so the sense I get is that he hasn't signed yet. But the point was more that he was gonna get he was gonna get and he is getting more than Ovi. I mean that was the only point that I was really trying to fucking make. And there's a difference obviously in the ages and maybe how long each can play in each of their leagues and yada yada yada. But this number right here for Ovi, that's his cap hit 9.535. He technically his salary is 10 million. Um, I just assume that that's some sort of luxury cap type deal. But I don't know. There's probably other ways to get paid or whatever. Um, and either way, that's what he's making now. I didn't look to even see. I guess. Oh, I did see. I didn't already. I mentioned it too. So he's covered through 2021, which is a while from now. Um, and I guess isn't going to be making too much more than that. But 13 years, what I say, like 140 million. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm not saying it wasn't worth it. If you're only looking for scoring goals, has the record there tied and should have a shot at being able to take it outright as the only one. Oh fuck, we're gonna go over 60 minutes. That's really stupid. Um, so yeah, based on what Ovechkin was paid this year compared to what Harper was paid from an arbitration settlement, highest ever in the history of the league for that, by far, at 21.35, basically made double in the year that he just finished compared to the year that Ovi is playing in right now. And then Ovi's obviously in a very long-term contract right now, and assuming Harper, again being young enough, might not be able to get as much of it guaranteed um, in MLB as you would here, because that was that thing was suggesting that Ovi's entire fucking contract was guaranteed, which is nuts, but fine, okay, good job. Um, Either way, it doesn't seem like, and I'm not wishing this upon him, but it seems like Harper would like legit have to actually die and be taken off of the face of the earth prior to signing a contract with whomever he chooses to sign with in this offseason. Like I think that's the only possible way in which moving forward, if you want to exclude this past year that he just played and made in 1 year more than Ovi made during this current year for Ovi, um, that's the only way that he doesn't sign a contract for more money, even if it's got less years. In if it's 12 or 11, maybe even 10, it's still going to be more than 140. As they were talking about, the expectations were 400. I don't know why I didn't remember that. Um, I think because of the first thing that I was looking at was skewed my thinking that brought me down to like 200 or whatever. But I have to imagine like Trouts is probably higher than that, like above 200, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know and I don't care, which sounds odd because I've been talking for an hour, and it's been mostly like about finance stuff. But um, more to the point was just that parity sucks, and I don't really give a fuck if you're like, well, it's great, we get to get Landeskog on our team, and we would never have been able to do that. We get to get Seth Jones to come play for the Blue Jackets. Well, you also have a couple other players there, and you got Panarin, and you're not gonna be able to re-sign him. So if you were trying to tell me that it was worthwhile for you to have parities, that you could bring great players in an arena and sports-based money to your town that otherwise wouldn't have deserved it, feel free to make that argument before you existed. You can't make the argument currently because one of your best players is absolutely leaving, and you are going to be unable to pay them based off of those very things that you might have tried to use as the excuse as to how you were able to get them in the first place. And so that's what we're going to kind of do here. We're going to kind of be forced into a situation where we're going to drop a bunch of really fucking great players for something that's actually got less value. It feels as though we've got a Stanley Cup team that we just can't afford to re-sign everyone. Now, technically, the only one of these five that that actually does need a contract renewal on the card. For those that don't play the game, they have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But that's just how the game works. In Hut, you got to play players that have games left on their contract, and when they don't, you just use one of the contract cards, and you get them every day. And they're super cheap if you actually want to buy one on the auction market. And there's no reason at all to ever fucking do that. For now. But for now is all that matters because this game died like a month and a half ago. Nobody plays anymore. It's just people like me that just come on here just to fuck with the developers. Screaming into a vacuum or into dead air. No one's listening, and I don't care. It's not a big deal. But what this is, so if we can finally move past the whole thing that there's problems with the league and there's problems with that and that. More importantly, the game sucks. The developers suck, and they're trying to do this whole conversion into the quote unquote microtransaction pay to play environment and console games. And no, fuck yourself. You from the day the console started. You started to make a switch, and as soon as it became a thing where people were playing online, you suddenly made changes to how it was that you were presenting the game, if only to try to see if you can garner more interest in your game by getting people to play against each other. And then it was pitting players against other players and trying to convince them that they should look for the edges to effectively cheat their opponents out of getting the win when the win meant essentially nothing. There were no rewards for that online play. It was simply just bragging rights against someone that you've never encountered before in your life and probably would never encounter again in your life. Of like, oh, I beat that dude. Well, you were playing a 5-year-old girl in Pakistan, so good fucking job. You really schooled her on your toe drag, boss, and then going top shelf. Congratulations. So yeah, it's fucking stupid. It really is. And then now when you throw in the true, admittedly, microtransaction pay-to-play environment that is rampant in almost all console games, it's gonna be garbage anyways. But it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. They're not required to do these things. They do have a choice. they can make an actually good game. They could actually take this game, this exact game, this NHL 19 game, um, of which the offline modes I've played basically none of. I haven't played a single fucking game of franchise mode. And before, single player modes like Be a Pro is what it's called in this game and stuff like that came out, which were awesome when they first came out. Not necessarily in this franchise, but in other ones. It was like the coolest thing ever. It wasn't done the best ever, and it improved, and then now is churned into the garbage that is just because it's part of a larger game that is terrible. Um, but before the single player modes came out, franchise mode was kind of why you played sports games. I suppose there might have been some players who would come on and just do quick games or play single games of some sort or whatever. Or maybe they just wanted to play a season and didn't want to commit to an entire season franchise, whatever. An entire season, entire multiple season thing of like franchise mode or whatever it's called in that particular sports simulation game. I don't know. That wasn't me. I played all these games. Like when I played Madden, um, you know, I, I'd played to the point where, you go until it stops letting you play with that particular team, which I think in a lot of cases it used to be like you after you've won your 30th consecutive from the first season that you played until the last. So basically, it just means you can play 30 seasons in franchise mode essentially. But you're like me and you win every single time. So you win 30 consecutive NFL championships in Madden, and the kind of fun part about it is after whatever the number would have been based off of the number of years that were left, whether it was 1, 2, 3, or 4, or maybe even up to 8, but certainly after 8, and you're starting to get up to 30 years, into your 30th win, and you get invited to the White House again with whomever that current president happened to be. That's a bit comical, and that's just the icing on the cake that you get to do after winning your 30th straight championship, which would have been, what would that have been? Well, you're getting the bye, so it's depending on which year it was and how many rounds they had in the playoffs. I believe, right, that's 19. It's 19 years at 19 or 20. It's 19 or 20. I think it's 19. No, it'd have to be 20. You don't just get to go right to the championship of your conference anymore. So yeah, it'd be 20 games a year. Well, no, because there's a bye. So you had 16 games in 17 weeks. Plus the 3 in the playoffs. So it is 19. I was right the first time, but I was wrong about how I got to it. So 19 wins a year for 30 years. Would have been nicer if it was 20, because then I could have done simple math. But now I can do Singapore math of what 30 times 20 would have been and take one off of each of the 30s, right? Makes sense, right? Doesn't it? So, and then you do the whole thing of like, well, let's make it even easier of not even doing 30 times 20. Why don't we just do 30, 3 times 2? Well, that's 6. I can do that. Add a couple of zeros, you got 600. Take off 1 times 30, that's 30. 600 minus 30, 570. Singapore math is fun, is it not, folks? So yeah, it's 570 consecutive wins. It takes a while, and if that's the only mode you're playing, because that's the only real mode in the game, there might be a couple of other modes and they're boring as shit. Um, then yeah, you could get through 570 games over the course of a year and then play the next year. And people that don't play sports games today are like, I don't understand why people play sports games. It's exactly the same game with just like minor updates to like and I don't even, sometimes I don't even know that like, players do actually get traded. Um, you know, and in old school versions of the game, the trades would only count if they took place before they, you know, got past the point of no return in production. Um, which is always funny and fun to like see somebody who's on a team when it's like they were clearly not on that team. Like I wouldn't say, Eric Carlson's a good example of that for this game, even though he is very clearly listed on the wrong team. Um, and obviously they've changed that for the upgrades. And there was an update that just happened like this week. So are the cards that existed when the game came out, have those switched over yet to the proper team? I wouldn't even know. I don't really give a shit, honestly. Um, but generally speaking, you do that many tuners, you do that many updates to things, and you're supposed to be constantly updating rosters and all the rest of that shit. Like the MLB games, like MLB The Show and stuff like that, like those things, um, when the season is going on, like they update it to the point where like if a guy is in, the Hollywood version of the whole thing of like where he's like he shows up to the stadium that day to play, and the guy's like, well, actually we're gonna have to send you over to the visitors locker room, son, you just been changed. Or like basically the exact same thing, but like you got to travel across the country in the next 2 hours if you want to play in your game today because you're no longer a part of this team. Like either one of those, that sort of thing happens like before the game that day in real life even plays. The roster's been fucking updated in the game to reflect his current true team. This game in HUD at least doesn't seem to feel the need to do that as much with these player cards, which is odd. Perhaps the rosters in the modes that nobody gives a shit about in the current games, like franchise mode and stuff like that, maybe those have been properly updated. Don't know, couldn't tell you. Haven't played a single game of franchise, as I said. But I think what I was trying to say about all that was that when these things came out, those were the modes that I played. They're the modes that I would be much more interested in playing. I would actually really enjoy playing a version of HUT that was like strictly offline. You can't do that because you can't play HUT at all unless you're logged into both, not just your EA account, but also PSN if you're on the PSN side and whatever the fuck it is over on Xbox with the Microsoft connection or whatever. And so it's literally impossible to do anything, even what I'm going to do here, which isn't true gameplay. It's just an aspect of the game. I'm giving away a bunch of awesome cards and getting no value in return for it. Um, uh, you have to have a connection to do that. So you gotta have an internet connection. You gotta have a whole setup. You gotta have the console. You gotta have an output. In this case, it's my TV. Not to do the live broadcast like I am, but just to be able to play the game. Um, so there is no such thing as a HUT offline version. And yet, like I think that I personally would be very much interested in that sort of thing. Granted, they'd have to fix basically every aspect of the game that's fucking terrible right now. And they could actually get me to potentially be sometime in the future willing to give them another dollar by making things available that I'd have to pay for that I might be slightly interested in. Um, without giving away too much of how to make these games better. And it's not just uh, at EA Sports NHL, the Canadian house that built this shitty fucking game. It's basically just sports sims in general. If they kind of move away from these really horrible ideas of how to milk and bilk people out of their money, um, you could do a thing where like I don't know, you want to play with Seth Jones, but you kind of feel like it's not just his 83 overall in this particular game, but you're okay with his speed, but you think that he as a two-way defender that his shot statistics should be a little bit better. I don't know, from power standpoint, 81 and 80 is perfectly fine for me, but um, and the rest of it, I don't know. There might be other aspects that you'd be looking to improve or whatever. Especially if you could be like super tweaky and decide that there's certain underlying statistics, if not just one of the five statistics that are listed there: skate, shot, hand, checking, and defense. Um, being able to like adjust those. To have a shot improvement card the same way that they've got contract and healing cards and apply it to them, and even if it's just a +1, and suddenly his shots go from 77 to 78. Now the difference is that like in this game, they get upgrades, and Seth has already gotten some, has already received some. So there's other versions of him and other cards that are above 83, that are 85 plus. Um, and that's cool, good for him, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But um, that's not necessarily the point because that's within the confines of Hut. Again, you have to be online and connected to PSN and connected to EA to be able to even access it, let alone play in any of the games you're gonna have to play in order to garner the ability to get those things. And then maybe you probably got to open up packs to get them, or you got to buy the things in the auction market. All of which involves you having to interact with other people, and other people are generally speaking the biggest pieces of shit possible online. So the game's going to be terrible. It just always is going to be terrible under that, unless they forcibly make significant changes and potentially, alienate those people who really, really seem to either enjoy or are at least profiting off of the current setup, and therefore are probably, giving them. Well, I know they because I don't give them anything, so they're getting a lot more money from them than they are from me. Um, and so my it's not one voice is not all voices are not equal. It's money talks, as it does basically everywhere. So yeah, I would play a version of Hut just in the sense of like creating an ultimate team, which honestly is I guess probably the same exact thing as playing like franchise mode, and then doing it from this kind of you know quirky wannabe fantasy team, and I mean fantasy in the sense of like fantasy sports sort of thing. That's these things came together at the same time. Fantasy sports was out well before they had any video game that tried to capitalize off of the notion of you being able to like kind of create your own sort of team in this specific way. Because again, what it used to be was like you just played franchise mode, and I don't know, like you turned in this year. I think they said that, I haven't done it again, as I said, but I'm pretty sure you can set it so that the your CPU opponent owners do not have the ability to decline trades. So like if you wanted all, I mean, if you play as the Capitals, you already start with 2 of the 5 on your team. But if you wanted all 5 of these players in your team, you could do that by simply just going. Well, first off, start as the Capitals, and then go to the Phillies, go to the Flyers and Philly, go to the Avs and go to the Blue Jackets, and make a shitty trade, from their perspective to get Voracek, Landeskog, and Jones onto your team, and they'll have to accept. I believe is kind of how it works. I imagine you probably can't give them like just anything. If you have basically the equivalent of a bronze rare who's not actually a decent prospect, I don't think you can just like force them to take that in return for their superstars. But maybe you can. So that's what the version of fantasy teams used to be back in the day in these video games. um, was basically you try to like create the franchise as if you were a GM, and you not from the very first years, plural, like especially the first years that was available. It wasn't even so much a thing where you could start the season with what they now term as a fantasy draft, and back then it just used to be just called a draft. um, and you and so instead of like having in this case these 5 players be on these 4 teams, you have no players on any teams, and you pick the team that you want to play with, and you used to be able to tweak basically everything in your favor, so you could like choose to get the first pick if you wanted to, um, and then you basically also try to figure out how to trade your other picks, to be able to trade up or whatever. You give away, I actually don't even know how many rounds there are in the in the NHL entry draft. And I also don't think the entry draft is really where you want to set your team. So in this game, I guess I should go over to franchise mode and do a draft as the 32nd team because it's a trophy that you get towards your trophy collection for completion of the game if you do that. So maybe I will do that at some point. And I don't know how that would work because like which draft are they, or are they not even calling it like one of the true drafts that actually exist in real life? Or are they just calling it like a, okay, well here's the deal, like we're gonna start the whole league over with 31 teams, and technically there is no Golden Knights, I guess, then in that scenario, um, and no player, all the players that are currently in the NHL are available to play, but none of them are on any existing teams. And now you get the first pick, and you can go with whoever you want, and you go with Ovi, um, or you go with Crosby, or you go with McDavid, or you're a fucking idiot and you go with Elias Peterson, which would make a little bit more sense, I guess, if you're gonna try to play 30 seasons. He might eventually get good at some point in his life. Um, but so you do that, and then it snakes back around until to whatever your next pick is, depending on the structure. Of whether you get to pick first in the second round, which is how it used to work and how it would probably still work today, unless you adjust it to do true snake and forcing you to get the first pick in the first round and the last pick in the second round, followed by the first pick in the third round. Um, Again, because you want to make things fair to everybody. You can't just screw over the people that are picking last in favor of the people that are picking first, even though there's probably a good reason and a lot of times why that people are picking first or picking first. So let's get this done in under 90 minutes, right? So we got 7 minutes. Let's just finish this off. Um, Anybody that plays this game knows what this is. It's not a big deal. These are gold rare players to gold collectible. They also know from the little crossed off circle, these are all untradeable cards. So like literally, I could click on the auction house and see that Backstrom is going for basically 5K at most. I didn't know that in advance, by the way. I just know that because I've been in the game often enough. And unfortunately, you wouldn't see a significant difference for basically any of these other than Ovi. Voracek used to be an exception to this, and now he's had 2 upgrades, and so I think that's part of the reason why generally you see, on off hours, it's late for this game. It's still slightly better, slightly higher, and they all have the same overall ratings. You think that they'd be a little bit insane, like Seth Jones. During the day, you can actually get for significantly less than that. Like there's one right there that you can at least. Oh, it's 4 hours and 25 minutes. So you gotta wait. You got a ways to go to wait, and it'll probably end up selling in 4 hours and 25 minutes for much closer to the top end of the range at nearly 6K. But no one's actually paying 6K for the card. They're not. Despite people looking for 7,500, and what the fuck are people doing? They must be trying to like trick people into thinking that they're the upgraded Seth Jones cards, and they're clearly not. So I don't know what that is. I said I wasn't going to do all of them, but fuck it, we did 3 of the 5, might as well, right? So there's Landeskog. He's got also upgrades, and I'll get to one of them in a second. So yeah, you can also get some of his cards. I mean, right there you can get 4K just buying it outright. I think I saw another one that was about as low or lower than that. Whatever. It's like, so there you go, 3,900. So the worst one of them all. Then you got Ovi, who's come down significantly. And at this time last night, somebody was trying to sell him for 20K. It appears that for the next hour, there's people that are looking to get 40 to 46. But this is more average, like 60, 62 right now, and it used to be significantly higher than this. And I'm getting none of that, right, by doing this. I mean, I could do quick sell, and I could sell it for 0. And I guess they do that because they're untradeable. And being untradeable would make, I guess, no sense to them that you'd be able to quick sell them for anything. I don't know. I feel like you should be able to get some coins for selling to the game, and therefore eliminating the cards from the game. Cards that have some form of value. Because just to show you, like the OV would be 0 as well. Um, Man, I got 4 minutes. So what's happening here is you can trade. You can do this anytime you want. It says over on the left side, they're trading any 5 gold rare players for 1 gold collectible. Okay, now Ovi's a bit different. I'll get to him in a second. Voracek has upgrades. I don't have any of them. I said Jones has upgrades. I don't have any of those either. Same deal with Backstrom. I'm sure he's got at least 1 upgrade as well. Do not have those. I do, however, have an upgrade for Landeskog. So the upgrade's always going to play on my team more than this one. You know, again, going back to the point that I don't even really have a team. But if I did, if I played more than 1 game per week or 2 weeks, the other Landeskog card is going to always play more than this one. There's no like expiration on these things. They're not loans or whatever like that. So this card is effectively useless for me. And in fact, that's part of the reason why the OV card is here as well. Is because it does not show it here, and I don't really know why. I guess they didn't really have the space to be able to create 3 icons over there on the right. Looks like fucking empty space to me. How lazy are you as devs that you couldn't make it so that if they have more than 1 thing, like what would happen if he was hurt, had a contract, and was a duplicate, which was the last thing I was trying to get at, is that this card is a duplicate. It's not just the normal duplicate. Both cards, each one of the duplicates are both untradeable cards. This particular one was on the team, played, and ran out his contract, and now I've replaced him with the other card that is also untradeable that had a contract that was still going. I mentioned that in a previous broadcast that I was going to do that, but then I just haven't played it very much at all. So it took a while for him to get through his 5 games that he was able to get. And so now we're going to get rid of him, partially just as kind of like a fuck you to NHL 19, I guess. Of like, hey, we're going to get rid of 5 cards of seemingly tremendous value, although admittedly it looks like if you take the low end of what you can get for some of these players, it seems like 4 out of the 5 you could probably get for the average of any gold rare of 5K, making it seem as though it would actually make sense to no, it doesn't. Never mind. I would say it would make sense to do the other trade-in that you could do with gold rare players of taking, 2 of these and trading them in for 1 gold rare player. Based off of value, that would not be true because you'd be getting rid of 2 that you definitely could normally sell for 5K, and on average you're going to get 1 back that you could get for 5K. So no, that's not the case. However, here we are actually trading these in, and we're going to get a gold collectible in which we actually can sell. Not a good idea. It's not as if they don't go for money. I mean, the market has almost always been 20K plus for each of those, and that would seem like a little bit off in the sense that you're looking to trade in 5 that could be worth 5K on average. This one obviously being significantly more than that. But you take OV out and put in an 80 overall instead, and you effectively have 5 that are worth like a max of 5K each on average, and so that's 25K, and the gold collectible is going to go for less than 25K. So it just doesn't really make much sense in terms of value and ROI and all that bullshit. But you can't get any value from these. You can't trade them with anybody. You can't even quick sell them for anybody. So you're just going to trade them in. You're going to get a gold collectible, and it's actually going for a little bit more than 20K last I looked, which again was about like a week and a half ago. So that might have changed again. I'm doing this for a very specific reason, and also doing a 90-minute plus live broadcast as basically a fuck you to NHL, hoping that I see no other reason why this would not automatically become the thumbnail. And anybody that plays this game should look at this and be like, what in the fuck is going on? Like, why would you ever get rid of Ovi in the first place? Why are you including him in a trade-in with 4 other 83 overall players? That's insane. You're only getting a gold collectible out of that. Right. Except that, again, as I said, none of these players are going to be capable of getting me any coins if I wanted coins, and the gold collectible can do that. Spoiler alert, though, I'm not doing it for the coins. Um, and then you might look and see, like, admittedly, none of these players are currently making the team. I explained Landeskog, so that should make some sense to you. But even Voracek, I was excited when I got the card, and then he never made the team when I was still playing. And I think I forced him into a game, and he was fine. I would have enjoyed having him on the team. Each of these, actually, I mean, obviously Ovi, but like all five of the players, if you want to say the four plus Ovi, the other four are not bad in terms of their speed. The lowest overall skate category is Landeskog, and he's, his acceleration and speed are both 87 as well. So it's not like they're slow. You can do better. You can get faster. It's not like they're slow. So at least from that perspective, if I was only looking to just have kind of a fast team, if I didn't have other ones that were faster, these guys would be basically fast enough. And it seems strange that I'm talking about primetime players in the actual league from the perspective of how they're not bad at stuff. But that's just the nature of this year's game, where it's an 83 overall base card is what Backstrom was probably a fucking 95 last year. I don't even know, but he was probably super fucking high. He's a premier player. And I'm not saying that of the four that he was the most slighted as an 83 overall, because 83 overall in this year's game is actually good for a current player. You can make the argument that 84 is significantly better than 83, and perhaps it is, but it's like as you go up, there's less and less 84s, less and less 85s, almost no 86s. Ovi's one of them, and there were two 87s. So it is what it is. Point being, though, you look at those ratings, and then I do point out the fact that none of them are making the team, which is why I didn't have to adjust my team, and I could leave the team as it is before making this trade in. And you look up at the top, if you know the game, and you see overall for my team is 90. But then again, if you know how the game works, you should know what I'm about to say, which is that it's not like my team is fucking stacked with 90 plus players. That's not the case. My only player that has 90, exactly 90 as a rating, is the monthly reward for October of Joe Nieuwendyk. The only player at all that I have that is any higher than that is 90. I was about to say 92. He might. Is he a 94? He's one of the two. But now I'm actually thinking that he might even be a 94. I don't fucking know. He's awesome though. Joe Sakic, and I got it from doing stuff like this. Basically, is what it came down to. I completed enough sets. You got to do like 500, and I've probably done like 600 now. I said I was going to stop doing them after I got Sakic, and that was my reason for doing it. And I don't know. I guess I got kind of addicted to doing sets, especially because I hate how much playing the game. Playing the game is fucking boring for me, and frustrating at best when not boring. So yeah, I just don't play a ton of the game. So I just kept completing sets because it's like, why not? I'm okay with just spending all my coins and wasting all my in-game value and currency and getting rid of amazing players for potentially something on the other end, which is exactly what I'm doing here. But yeah, it's just that it's Nieuwendyk at 90. I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on with this monthly for Ronak. He'd be a 92 if it ended up on the team, and then so that those three would be 90 plus. Fuck. Ferraro's an 88. He was the monthly for the beginning of the game in September, and I think that's it. 87s. Never had McDavid. Had base Crosby. He was tradable though, and I did this whole thing where I changed my whole team over to saying that only untradeable cards could play in Hut for me. That was when I quit the first time. This is like around my seventh or eighth quit at this point. I kind of feel like I've retired from this game more often than Jordan retired from the NBA, which is very sad for both of us. Um, and yeah, so I had the base Crosby. God damn it, dude! I did it again. I just need to put this where it's not there. Go over there. Um, I don't normally like lean forward when I'm doing these things. I'm not really sure what I'm leaning forward now. Also gonna sneeze. This will be fun. Hold on. Anyway, yeah. So on to my eighth or ninth time quitting this game. Um, um, what was the point? Oh, that I had the base Crosby at some point back in October, early October, and do not anymore. Got rid of it. Assuming traded it. I probably wasn't stupid enough to put it into a trade incentive like this. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure I sold him. So he's not on the team. So that would have been an 87 that I would have had. Um, and I don't know. There are a fair amount of I mean, the whole team is basically 85 plus. It's not that hard to do. You need 12 forwards, 6 defensemen. If you care about goalies, you need 2 goalies. Head coach doesn't get a rating, so those are the only things you can put into a team. Um, People play without head coach, which makes sense in a lot of cases. People play with the the game forces you to fill the goalie slots, and so they just pick like the 2 lowest ones overall that maybe are giving them synergies in certain things. It is what it is. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the blue line on D. Nobody cares about the fourth line on O. So really, you only actually need 9 forwards um, and 4 defensemen. Don't need any goalies. I mean, you don't need a head coach. Now, the only one of those that you don't actually have to put on the team in order to play is the head coach. That can be empty. The other ones you at least have to fill the slot with something, but you can literally fill it with anything. Um, you can't play position players as goalies or vice versa, but other than that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Um, so yeah, my team basically is filled with 85 pluses, 85 pluses, and there are 85s that aren't even making the team, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this is because it's like, I've got Base Tarasenko and Claude Giroux and I'm trying to think of other great examples of 85s in this game who are just amazeballs players that if I just constantly went off of what is currently set up as of just taking the best overall, which is not optimal in my opinion because it puts my primetime Kuznetsov, which is an 87 overall rating card, into the fourth line center spot every single time that I do best overall, and it's not optimal because Kuznetsov in this game can't win a fucking face-off to save his life, and that's kind of an important characteristic for a center, especially when you can just play the center in literally any other position on the ice. So it's not as if I'm annoyed to have Kuznetsov on the team or have him out there on the ice, but I am kind of annoyed when I want to play a real game and actually try and might forget to adjust the lineup ahead of time and move him from that fourth line center spot, especially when as I said, um, I mentioned Giroux. I've got an 86 overall Patrice Bergeron that does not make the team on any of the 4 lines as a center, and is much better at faceoffs, and I think even might have faceoff master synergy that even adds more to faceoffs. So just from a faceoff perspective, he's a million times better than Kuznetsov. And as far as overall, there's a 1 point differential. In my opinion, the cards themselves, how they play, one is better than the other at some things, and vice versa. and not just face-offs. So is what it is, right? So and the base Bergy is 84. I don't have a base Kuznetsov. If I did, though, he'd go into the churner probably as well, which is why Landeskog is in this churner here. So hopefully that makes sense as to why the bottom four of this list of five are going into this pile here, because I was kind of trying to stick with just 80s, 81s, and then eventually 82s, and was doing it more in terms of the 2 gold rares for 1 gold rare player, and just wasn't seeing a lot of value there. Obviously it's a bit more interesting to try to do that when a primetime Crosby or a primetime McDavid is available during that day, and you want to try to get a shot at doing that. But that's probably going to be the only time that I'll be doing that anymore. I think I'm going to stick to this for a little while. I'm not doing this every day either, because I just don't give a shit enough to come on and play every day because the game is so fucking terrible. But before we get to 2 hours, can I actually do the thing that I came here to do, which is we're taking these 5 cards, and I showed you the values of the cards if they had any actual value and were able to be traded, like the supposed value of the card if it was a different version of the card. And so the only other value that any of these cards from Ovechkin on down could potentially have is if they were part of some other trade-in set. All the time, as I mentioned right now, you've got this one that I'm going to do where you can get a gold collectible. You can also do, as I said, the 2 gold rares for 1 gold rare player. Obvious difference there, as I already stated, is that when you do that, you do get 1 gold rare player, but it's going to be untradeable, and therefore you get no you get no trade value, you get no coin value or supposed coin value from doing that trade. Whereas the gold collectible, you'll see in hopefully a second, you absolutely can, and people do trade those collectibles, and as long as you were doing it like in a situation like this where the thing that you traded it for had, at least at the time, literally no supposed or actual coin value, and people were trying to still get 20 or maybe now still up to 22, 23, maybe even 24K for that gold collectible, just fucking lowball the shit out of them. Put it on the market on the off hours right now for 16K. It'll sell in a fucking heartbeat. And then you got 16K towards your coins that you didn't have before. And you might say, well, if you actually played the game and you tried, it'd be really easy for you to make 16K coins. And there's truth to that, but I don't give a fuck, and I'm not playing. You look, I got 3K left. I think 800 of that came from watching Honda commercials, so fuck you. So I think I made the point well enough that the 4 here don't really make that much of a difference. And sure, depending on what's available, on a particular day, which I think is another part of the reason that today's currently available cards, I don't give a fuck about at all. There's some special alumni, and I think there's 1 milestone, and no disrespect intended for whoever that milestone is for, because they're probably old as shit and therefore been playing for a while and deserve some respect, but I don't care about it at all. And the rest, the team of the week has been there already, and they're still there. And yeah, I would like to have an 88 overall Erik Karlsson, but I didn't get it in any other times when I was trying to get it, like when the primetime Crosby was there. So, feeling like it's not that great of a chance. Now, interestingly, there's also a team of the week, Matt Dumba, with a +2 over his previous team of the week, and that team of the week card is in fact still on this still in this collection, and actually does make the team over Seth Jones and other defenders, even though one's on the right and one's on the left, and the game, again, if you do the autofill thing, they put them into their specific positions as opposed to maybe where else they could be of use. Hour and 45 minutes. Really? I did this so that I could go to bed as opposed to playing any of Red Dead Redemption 2 and getting kind of caught up in um, the slow pace of that game that forces you to spend a fair amount of time if you want to actually do or complete anything. Which is not really a knock on the game. The game's awesome. This game sucks. That game's much better. Um, but let's go ahead and trade this. Is what it is, right? So, um, complete set. The thing that I was trying to say was just that I'm not gonna stay on this screen very long because I don't want it to become my thumbnail automatically. Um, what I said when I got the second untradeable Ovechkin, and I was excited when I got it and jumped on the mic. Because actually, let me go back. Now it's showing synergies. That's interesting. Um, uh, yeah. So what I had been doing a lot of was just constantly coming on and doing quote unquote live broadcasts to show all of my gold rare pack openings. And it'd be a max of 2 at the time usually, and I would do live broadcast. I'd wait for the minute to pass so that I know that the broadcast would be live and wasn't going to get cut off, because these things are one and done. If you don't have it recorded when it happened, then it's gone forever and there's no way to get it. I always broadcast on the highest definition possible, and gameplay recording is not available as an option it's basically paused and doesn't do it when you're doing live broadcasts at that highest level definition. If I went down even just one notch, it would be a situation where I could do both, and technically the game is like constantly recording, unless you like tell it to stop, which is hard to do. So, but if you join likely tomorrow, and check out the what would normally be a marathon, but now at this point, it's I don't know how much of a marathon I can do tomorrow now. But usual marathon sessions for Red Dead Redemption 2, I will discuss a little bit there in terms of the definition on the live broadcast in terms of how it is output on YouTube, and slight disappointments for me, and really just coming down to the hardware that's built into PS4 Pros as opposed to Xbox One X's, and again potentially poor choices on my part, in the sense that it's obvious which one of the two that I chose at the time when I made that choice. So, yeah, when I got the other Ovechkin, all I was saying was that at the time I said, well, if there's a case where there's maybe something else that would make sense to put the card in as a trade-in, other than the current ones of this one, or again the 2 gold rares for 1 gold rare, that I might wait until it comes out. Maybe there'd be like a special event in which you trade in a base Ovechkin, and you get like a super buff Ovechkin that obviously is not a 99 like the team of the year is obviously going to be at some point. And you could say that technically speaking, right now that is essentially going on. That I would imagine is probably the Patrick Kane Thanksgiving, the 91 overall that I believe I mentioned about an hour and 20 minutes ago or so. I think that's how that works, and I can go over there right now and check. But I don't really give a fuck, because it's either gold. It's something. It's gold rare players, it's gold common players, or it's gold collectibles. It could be any of those 3, but I think it's gold rare players, which means these 5 that I'm just going to be getting rid of right now with almost nothing in return. Hey, there's somebody in the room. If you're on YouTube and you want to comment, feel free to do so. Doing our usual thing of talking shit about NHL 19 and the developers. So the whole Patrick Kane special card thing. I think that's how that works. Is I think it's gold rare players that you could trade in. And so technically all five of these I could put into that, and it doesn't matter that they're untradeable. And we lost that player. Way to be. Um, and so you or that person. I don't know if they're a player. Um, so that would seem like that's potentially a poor choice, and it'd be better suited over there because I would love to have a real version of that card as opposed to the loan one. Because the card played awesome. It just was it was an amazing card. Um, and to reiterate, I don't have legends on this team at all. I don't have a single legend card. It was done intentionally at the time because again I was choosing to only play with untradeable cards, and when you upgrade somebody to legend, they are immediately tradable, and therefore I had to get rid of those cards. Because I've had a few. I've had Hudry, I've had Olchek, well all the low tier ones. So Hudry, Olchek, um, um, Dinieko, who actually played phenomenal for me. Not that the other two that I just mentioned did not. Um, I don't remember if I did Taidomi yet. I think I was kind of saving that towards the end because people are selling that card for like 35K. So it would just not make a ton of sense for me to spend the equivalent of like 300, 350K to create the card just to be able to get 30K back in return. So I don't think I've done that one yet. But I did. I don't know. And then I think like the next one is like Probert, so I'll do that just to do it. Which is where this gold. So I gave away my secret. That's where this gold collectible is going to be going towards is creating the legend Bob Probert. But I'm just going to end up selling the Probert. I'm not going to keep him on the team. I'll play a game with him just to see what it's like. Because I don't think I've ever gotten even like a loan version of the legend or whatever. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how the card plays, but I'm not gonna keep it. And then the other thing is too, like all of those that I just mentioned, they're all 88s when they're maxed out, you know, um, as opposed to like I got two 87 base alumni Charlie Conikers on the team right now, and that's I guess kind of the slight difference between that card and this base Ovi. Not just that it's a +1 difference on the overall, um, but that I can upgrade the 87 Conacher to an 88, and then the 88 up, and then up, and then up, and then I don't know what he ends up at. Like was it 93? So I thought for some reason I was thinking that the 94 hull was the highest overall, but it's probably not. I'm probably totally off on all that because I haven't done any of them, so I don't really know, and I don't pay too much attention to the auction market when people actually try to sell those cards. Um, but yes, I do have some base alumni on the team for sure, but really the only ones that make it into the squad every time is Conacher at 87 and Howard Chuck at 86. I can't think. Well, and my goalie Bernie Perrin is also an 87 too, but I can't think of like another one that's like always on the team. I just can't. So I don't think I have them. Um, because like I think I had it, and I don't know if I still do, but I think I had like the Bernie Jeffron, and then it's like that's an 85. You know what I mean? So it's like that's the low end of overalls that make the team based off of highest overall only. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that there's no legends on the team, and there's a reason for that based on what I was attempting to do. And yet the fact that I do have a duplicate uh, base alumni Charlie Conacher does not mean that right now at this moment that I expect to put him into a trade-in set like this. I would be more likely to try to hold on to them until a time where I'm willing to, spend all of the in-game currency slash value time whatever to upgrade that card at least one level, if not two or whatever. And so yeah, the I think I just went through this whole thing too, but now I'm getting really fucking tired and I'm not remembering. So I think that a better use of these five cards would be part of the trade-in set for the Patrick Kane. The Patrick Kane card is an amazing card, um, but because it also requires the Thanksgiving collectibles. That's why I just said fuck you. I'm not spending money on the stupid fucking Thanksgiving packs. They're the worst value in the world. But I did just go back and watch videos that are still on this channel. You can go check them out yourself. When I opened up a bunch of Evo packs, and I don't really know why I thought there was value there. I mean, obviously Evo is better value. Well, I mean, basically Evo cards are the best value in the game. Um, you could make the argument that all legends are kind of on the same level. So then it just comes down to whether you want to play with current NHL players or alumni slash legends. And obviously 99 Gretzky and 99 Mario Lemieux are going to be better than any other card in the game until the Team of the Years come out. But I don't know, an Evo that could start at 74 and finish the year at 99 just seems more valuable to me than um, than a base 80 overall that is not going to get Team of the Year. And up until about a month ago, was stuck at 82 no matter how many upgrades they received, and now they've changed that because they realized it was stupid. So now, to get from 80 to essentially 100, would require 10, 10 10 more upgrades that don't happen at the same time, same week or whatever. So, good luck with that. So it could be 10 weeks of, anyways, point is, Evos are great. Everything else sucks. Do the trade-in. I'm talking for 2 hours. I'm pretty sure I've covered literally everything that I could possibly cover. I think it's time to move on. Let's complete the set. Let's get it done. Here we go. What are we gonna get? What are we gonna get? Big surprise. We'll let it roll. Oh, it doesn't even come up because you have to go into the thing, and then oh my god. Well, the other part that was kind of stupid is I just kind of wasted 2 hours on the timeline from being able to do this again. But you can tell, obviously, if I'm giving up an Ovi as well as 483s, I don't really have a ton to put into that. Now, the key there is, you notice it doesn't say that it's untradeable, but also it has a quick sell of 0. Baffling, in my opinion. So now we're up to 3. We need 7, so we need more. All of them are tradable. You actually can get untradable versions of these collectibles. Typically, that's when you start the game, though. So if you're brand new, then there you go. Next 1 minute and 17 seconds, you can get one right now for 21,724. Or you can wait 3 minutes and see if you can get that one for 17. Have these really gone that far down in value? What in the flying fuck? I really hope this is just some off market shit. Because I was considering selling along the way while I was building up to my 7. This is frightening. It really is. Because this isn't like indicating current prices. Because I think we only showed one card. This one that actually has a current bid on it, and it's 17K. Another one with 17K, and another one with 17K. So there might be one person out there that's trying to get 3 collectibles right now for 17K, and yeah, they're all ending in the next 7 minutes. If I had 60K, I might at least force them to pay a slightly higher price. Yeah. So there is some value there for sure if you want to just turn around and sell it, or you can put it into to a legend upgrade, or you can put it into this here, which is creating a carbon. Fuck me, dude. Can I ever press the right button? I mean, I want to go to sleep now. It's 2 hours. I really don't want to even have a 2 on it on the listing, but I can't do anything about that now. We're already into the 2 hours. So that's gold collectibles. Now they still haven't fucking fixed this. This is so goddamn frustrating. Like, you guys are just like the worst. The absolute motherfucking goddamn worst. Like, I can't. Like, I can't. Like, I can't do... You can't even be specific enough. Like, basic, rare collectibles. 600. Okay, well, thank you for showing the silver ones. I didn't go crazy and think that you suddenly said that silver and bronze collectibles were not rare. Um, all right, we'll put this on the watch list, and I don't know if I have any space left. I guess we do. Oh, there's bronze too. Just couldn't see because they look the same as fucking gold. Um, so in the next 12, well, 13 minutes, somebody's hoping to get somewhere between 200 and 210K for their carbon. Um, and okay, so I know, and then just to appease any potential naysayer that could be out there, or uh, the people develop this game that want to be like, well, there's ways to do this that can get you to, to do it correctly, and shut the fuck up, first of all, and second of all, sure, and you just go here, then you go to carbon, and then you search the auction house from there, and you get to see all of the carbons that are out there, all 24 of them, and you see that if you wait an extra 4 minutes, you could potentially get one for about the same price in case that one went for 210, which is not going to do. Looks like people are currently trying to get them off for slightly less than 200, and then most of the rest of the people are still looking for more than 200 and hoping that they get somebody to bid up 50% incremental value. Good luck with that. Although, having said that, you actually can put something in at the minimum of 50 starting price, and if you've got a long enough time frame, it'll go up to its true value, whether that's 5K or, if it's the OV and was normally going for 60, you'd probably still get a minimum of 20 out of it. So that obviously is more than 50% incremental value from your starting price. But I'm just saying, you pick a starting price that is basically equivalent to the market price, and then hope for 50% incremental. Ain't gonna happen, bro. Ain't gonna happen. We'll toss another one on the watch list just for the fuck of it. Johnny Bauer. So you get a 91 overall Johnny Bauer if you want him. Anyways, let's just say peace out at this point. I think I've talked enough, said enough nonsense. Probably go back and delete this because I'm not in editing mode yet. I'm not in editing mode yet. I will enunciate so people can figure out what the fuck I said in case they watch this, because I am going to bed, so this is going to go on YouTube right now for the ability to watch as a replay of a broadcast. And I'm not waking up in the next 3 hours, so I won't be able to get back in time for you who could potentially be watching it in the next 5 minutes, but you obviously won't be at this point unless you just like fast forward to the end for some reason, which would be extremely odd in my opinion, but so was the broadcast, so it would fit in. And with that, peace out, fuck off, good night, go fuck yourself.